Arab countries are in the midst of a serious political and social changes, and that these changes are the biggest challenge to the existing literature in democratization in the Middle East, in particular to those essentialist theorists who always playing the paradox of incompatibility. That's to say, and for those essentialists, Islam and democracy are incompatible, and tribalism, Arab tribalism and democracy are incompatible. And that's precisely why we don't have any democratic trends for the last few decades in Arab countries. And I guess what's happening is a real challenge for these theorists and to the entire existing literature on democratization in the Middle East. One aspect of the incompatibility thesis is, since Islam a heavy-handed religion on public life and perceived as both state and religion, then the thinking was that it is contradictory to say Islamic secularism or secularism within Islam. I argue for the contrary, and that's to say Islam by nature is a secular religion. And the perceived Sharia as being a sacred text, revealed text, is obviously a mistaken thesis, needs to be refuted and falsified. The true nature of Islam, by definition, is to have a secular state where state is neutral to all of its constituencies and legal settings. Without having a secular state, that is dangerous to the very nature of Islam itself. And that's precisely why I'm proposing or advocating the idea of the natural secularism within Islam and Islamic traditions. If we thinking of the moment and we seeing most leading figures whom I called as the Islamic Enlightenment scholars, and just thinking of Islamic reformers as just beginning with them, and happened for most of them are living outside their home countries, the Arab and Islamic countries, this will be a mistake. Historically, we have different generations of reformers, and if you go back to the late 18th century and early 19th century and continued all the first third of the 20th century, what I call them the first generations of reformists, they've been educated in different places, but they've been back and they helped in transforming their societies. Examples in mind, Tahtawi, Afghani, Muhammad Abdo, Kawakibi, Rashid Rida, and the rest of the first generation of reformists. Now, it also has some truth to this proposition that we don't see the reformists emerging within the Islamic countries, and this absolutely has to do with the authoritative environment, which is totally enabling environment for a free thinking and a free intellectual enterprise that will prevent, naturally again, any kind of reforming or enlightening thinking trends or patterns. And that's probably the reason why we don't see most of them are emerging in their own home countries. However, the impact of their work is widely spread and were received at the level of local elites and regular citizens within Arab and Islamic countries. And I would hope, these new changes that are taking place within the Middle East will bring more optimism and will promise for those reformers. And there are many, as I said before, to be part of the transformation that is taking place within the Arab and Islamic countries. To my mind, Amman message represent this dialogue between this various and wide spectrum of Islams first, and it at the same time represents continuity and discontinuity in Islamic traditions. By continuity, I mean, and I refer simultaneously to the euphoric era of Averroes and Avicenna, and the lively debate and dialogue between scholars, jurists, and theologians of Islamic traditions, and the discontinuity where that been stopped for at least, I would claim, for the last 1,000 years. I guess this is at the core of my thesis and presentation, and contrary to what's been perceived in the West, and probably for that reason to the most of Arab and Muslims, that Islam plays a major role or so important role in people's lives, that to say that Islam do and did impact people's behavior, I propose the opposite, that this is an exaggerated position. Islam never played that major role. And as a matter of fact, what happened over Islamic history is that Islam itself been used and politicized. So this politicization of religion, Islam in the sense, been the major factor of the perceived impact of Islam on people's lives. And the reason why I say that, if you again trying to figure out what is Islam all about and see these differences on the theological level, on jurisprudences, on legal reasoning, on literature, history, politics, and the most important for that reason is the impact of local cultures and Islamic folk on Islam itself, you will probably arrive to a conclusion that, among that, where's the text, where's the Holy Quran, and how it really impacts people's lives and minds. And here's the claim that over history, those ulama, that's the singular is alim, Islamic scholars, did have and enjoyed a very heavy hand in two important aspects of first presenting what Islam is all about and dogmatizing their personal understanding of Islam to the extent they start actually speaking on the name of God and on behalf of God. So I would say Amman message is in one way or another is reconfirmation to this heavy hand of ulama, and if there is way out of the trap of resentiments and a step forward for Islamic reformation, this heavy handed of ulama should be lifted up.